I'd like to give a huge shout out to Annabelle before this video starts, just because it gave me a huge donation of 29 billion ISK as well as 5 billion ISK 2 months before. It's really appreciated, and I'd like to give some of that ISK at least back to the eveiseasy viewers as well, and probably have a really cool giveaway in a few days time. So thanks a lot to Annabelle, and
Hi there, Tony here. I'm back again with yet another low SP character, this time with even more restrictions in place. The character that I used in this video is 100% self-founded, which means that I didn't send any ISK to this character at all from any of my main characters, and he made all the ISK himself. I made the ISK through a combination of running the career missions and the Sisters of Eve epic arc, as well as running level 2 missions and a small bit of AFK mining when I was semi-AFK. I think combined in terms of how long I spent quote-unquote grinding, I didn't spend much more than around 25 hours on this account. That includes everything I did actively to make ISK, like the career missions, the Sisters of Eve epic arc, the mining, and the level 2 missions. So this is a bit more than 10 hours per week, which is not a significant time investment for a completely brand new character in an MMO. You'd probably spend much longer in most MMOs doing quests or whatever to get to the level cap, which is usually where the PvP environment is in the other MMOs. I'm really passionate about EVE Online, and I think a lot of criticism about having to have played the game for an absurd amount of time, or to have so much skill points or ISK is needed to be able to achieve something in this game, is not quite true. There were a few comments on my last Executioner video stating that it would not be possible to solo PvP if you weren't getting money sent to your character from your main, or that you can't PvE effectively if you train skills for frigate combat, and I wanted to prove those comments wrong. Another restriction that I'm playing with the trial account is trial accounts cannot use Tech 2 guns, and this is actually quite significant, and we'll get a bit more onto this when I talk about the fitting of the ship that I use. I also limited myself to not joining a corporation. There are plenty of corporations which will help you out day one early on, such as Brave Newbies. If you want to join EVE Online, I would 100% recommend that you join a corporation. There are so many good alliances right now which will accept even a trial account right off the bat. The new solve changes which are coming into the game next month mean that active are a very valuable resource. Even players which don't participate in defense gangs or CTAs, because those players are still raising the defense of your systems. To name a few good corporations which will accept you in NullSec, Brave Newbies Inc. or Bovril's Mining Corp, both of those in Brave Collective Alliance. You have EVE University, Karma Fleet and Goonswarm Alliance, Pandemic Horde, Dreadit, in Test Alliance, Please Ignore, and there are many more. These are all corporations which you can go out and join almost immediately, even as a trial account, and go and have access to NullSec and mine the ABC ores, usually with Orca Boost as well. So if you want to be a miner, even if you have just a starting out venture, you can easily make 4 to 5 million ISK an hour if you join one of these corporations in NullSec. Again, you can do a similar thing with things like anomalies. One good thing that a new player can do is if you just train for salvaging and just find an experienced player who's not salvaging wrecks. There's plenty of people who AFK in Ishtars in NullSec, for example, right now, and they don't salvage the wrecks. So if you just get a cheap destroyer and you just fleet up with your friends and you just warp in and you salvage the wrecks after the Ishtars are done with the sites, because they'll often ignore the wrecks sometimes, you can make quite a lot of money. And of course, if you want a PvP, you can join and participate in fleets with experienced players if that's what you want to do, and I definitely recommend you do that. I am really playing EVE on hard mode here by not joining a corporation and specifically trying to completely solo. Also, I'd like to point out that I think it's possible to make more ISK early on by joining factional warfare or doing low sec exploration or some trading, but I think that's more luck based or seasonal based, I guess, in the case of factional warfare, and I didn't want to make ISK through those activities because it may paint an unrealistic picture, so I limited myself to running the career missions, the Sisters of Eve epic arc, and level 2 missions to farm my character, because they're essentially activities that anyone can do, and those activities will almost certainly always be there. I also didn't train cybernetics or use implants at all on my character. I didn't use any of the bonus 3 maps either, only the initial one to to spec into perception and intelligence, so there is no min-maxing with skills here. This isn't like some super min-maxed set of skills that I've theory crafted for weeks, you know, or something like that. No, there's no min-maxing, there's no remaps, there's no implants. And I'd also like to announce that my character was at most 17 days old when all of these fights were recorded, and it's a trial account, so this breaks my previous record of the 20-day-old Amar character that I used for the Executioner video, which also had learning implants, and it was able to use Tech 2 guns. So let's talk about the Rifter and the fit that I used. I decided to pick the Rifter for a few reasons. The first is that I already did a low SP Kaldarian and Amar character, so I wanted to pick up a race which I hadn't showcased yet with low SP before. The second is because of the trial restriction of no T2 guns. I really feel like blasters and lasers really need Null and Scorch to thrive a lot more than autocannons need Barrage. Longer range weapons are a little too hard to fit with the fitting skills at level 5. I settled on autocannons for this reason, and then for the Rifter. Because the Rifter with Mimitar Frigate level 4 essentially turns all faction ammo types he uses into Barrage with the 40% fall-off bonus, this made the Rifter the ideal choice for me. The Rifter is also fairly kind when it comes to fitting if you're not using the utility high slot, and it's also reasonably fast as well. It is the fastest frigate in the combat variety of frigates, which makes it very suitable for solo roaming in nullsec. It will be able to run camps. The Rifter fit that I used is also designed for cost efficiency. It only costs 4 million ISK to lose this Rifter with insurance, meaning I can get a new Rifter with about an hour or so work with my character. So let's talk about the Rifter fit here. For the guns initially, because we can't use Tech 2, I'm using 200mm light prototype automatic cannons. This is the Meta 3 variation. The reason why I'm using Meta 3 and not Meta 4 is mostly just because of cost. I think Meta 3 are the most cost efficient guns. As you can see, they sit just below 100,000 ISK in jitter. If you're willing to buy them on buy orders, you can get them. Next, we have the Scrambler. It's just a J5B Scrambler. This is a pretty common Scrambler in PvP. It's the Meta 3 Scrambler. It's not that expensive at 66,000 ISK each. I definitely think going with the Meta 3 Scram is what you want to do. And next we have the X5 prototype engine innovator. Again, this is a Meta 3 stasis web of fire. This is just a very cost efficient web. It's pretty strong while still remaining at a reasonable price. You can go cheaper if you want to. We have a 5 meganewton Y-T8 compact micro warp drive. The compact micro warp drive is mostly just there because it's easier to fit. We do need the CPU, and this compact micro warp drive, even though it is somewhat expensive at 400,000 ISK per unit, it's actually cheaper to get this than it is to get a more expensive damage control to save the CPU. So that's why we're going with the compact micro warp drive. If you have better skills than me, remember that my character right now does not have either of the CPU management or the power grid management skills at level 5. If you have any of those skills at 5, you can upgrade the micro warp drive on this fit to a enduring or to a restrained micro warp drive, which will either give you more cap or MWDing or lower your signature radius. For damage what we have a counterbalanced weapon mounts 1. Now, one thing that's actually very significant about this module is that it's super cheap. It's the Meta 4 gyro stabilizer, and it's actually pretty close in terms of performance compared to Tech 2. The reason why Tech 2 is better is because Tech 2 uses 30 CPU, whilst this counterbalanced weapon mounts uses 34 CPU. So this counterbalanced one is harder to fit. Also, remember, you don't need weapon upgrades 5 to fit this counterbalanced weapon mounts, so you can fit it earlier on. In terms of how much damage it adds, it's actually super close to Tech 2, and I think even if you're comparing like artillery tornadoes with 4 gyro stabilizer 2s compared to 4 counterbalanced weapon mounts, there's literally like 20 DPS involved, sorry, 20 raw damage like on artillery, which is like less than, it's like 0.1% DPS or something. So for all intents and purposes, this is just as good as Gyro Stabilizer 2, and as you can see, it's much cheaper. This Meta 4
gyro stabilizer is about 25 times cheaper than buying the Tech 2 gyro stabilizer, and you can also fit it with lower skills. I do have the requirements for gyro stabilizer 2 because I did train weapon upgrades 5, but nonetheless the counterbalance weapon mounts 1 is very cost efficient, and I really recommend that you use it. Next up we have an ancillary armor repairer. This is probably the most expensive module we have fit on our ship. Oh, that's the paste. This is probably the most expensive module we have fit on our ship at just over 500,000 ISK each. This is a very efficient module. A small ancillary armor repairer is definitely the most efficient slot for slot tank aside from the ancillary shield boosters, and in terms of how much fitting it takes up, how much tank it gives you, it is essentially the second damage control, and I really recommend that you use a small ancillary armor repairer. I don't think you should use a named armor repairer or a Tech 2 armor repairer. I think you should definitely go for the ancillary. It's definitely worth biting the cost to use it. And finally we have an emergency damage control. This is just a named damage control. It's the cheapest named version. It sits at just 230,000 ISK each. You can actually replace this, now that I've got weapon upgrades level 4, I can actually replace this to a Tech 1 module and save some money on the Rifter fit. Emergency damage control is pretty cheap at just 200,000 ISK each, so it's not too bad anyway. Next up we have 2 ambit extensions. These rigs give you 15% fall off each. This is going to tie in with the Rifter bonus. So combined these are going to give us a bit less than 30% extra fall off because of how stacking bonuses work. Well, actually it's going to be a bit more. So this is essentially giving us another 30% fall off. As you can see on these guns here, if I just throw in some ammo here, you'll see here that I have a 10 kilometer fall off range, which is my optimal range plus my fall off. So I do the vast majority of my damage still at 5 or 6 kilometers, and you can see we're pretty close to breaking 100 DPS on this fit. And then finally I have a small projectile collision accelerator. You can go for a rate of fire rig instead. It's your choice. The rate of fire rig is actually slightly stronger, but the collision rig allows you to get slightly more efficient heat cycles in. It's kind of complicated, but essentially what it comes down to is that the burst aerator is stronger, but the collision accelerator is a bit more efficient over time. And we don't have to worry about cap on this fit anyway, so you can go for the burst aerator if you want. My recommendation would probably just to go for whatever one is cheaper, because they're both pretty close in terms of effectiveness. And in terms of charges, I just carry 40 paste on my Rifter. I want to keep it as cheap as possible, and paste is actually really expensive right now at 18,000 each. So if you buy 40 paste, you can see even then it's still pushing close to the 1 million ISK mark. I think 40 paste kind of is good enough. It's good enough that you can repair your modules. And remember, unlike the execution that I use, we have cheaper modules on this ship, so it is more efficient to repair. Repairing meta guns is actually pretty efficient in terms of pace. A lot of the pace cost comes from repairing Tech 2 guns, and having basically spare pace for at least 1 or 2 extra reloads and a bit of maintenance after fights is enough, I think. And I'm just carrying 500 of each ammo type. If you load it here, you'll see we have 140 spare. Autocannons actually have a very long time to shoot before they run out of ammo. These autocannons here, they actually hold 120 charges. And if you look at our rate of fire, 2.59 seconds. That's going to take quite a long time to run out. In fact, it's lower than 5 minutes. We're not going. If we're still alive after 5 minutes, then done something right. So just to briefly talk about the Rifter's characteristics, the Rifter has a 5% small projectile turret damage bonus, and it has a 10% small projectile turret fall-off bonus. As I mentioned, the main strength of the Rifter here, getting it to level 4, is that the 40% bonus to fall-off is essentially turning all of our faction ammo into barrage if we were flying another ship like a Slasher or a Thrasher or something like that. So it allows us to scram kite a little easier. And then we've got the 2 ambit rigs that sort of play off the Rifter's fall-off bonus strength, which gives us the 10 kilometer fall-off on this faction antimatter. The Rifter itself as well is also pretty fast. It's pretty close to... It's kind of like an attack frigate speed almost. It is still a bit slower, but as you can see with my Corp Drive on, even with my non-perfect skills, I don't have Navigation 5, and I could get Acceleration Control up another 2 levels. Just shy of 2.9 kilometers a second, which is pretty good. One thing that we aren't using on the Rifter is the utility high slot. The Rifter, if you ask other people, it's fallen out of favour quite a lot, and it's not really a competitive ship right now. A lot of people would consider it to be somewhat underpowered when you're comparing it to all the other combat frigates in the game, and that's mostly because the utility high slot is pretty hard to use. The Rifter is quite gimped on CPU if you're trying to make a competitive fit. That if you were to make this fit with Tech 2 guns and then Tech 2 dryer here and then maybe a Tech 2 damage control, you wouldn't be able to fit a NOS here like you would on the Executioner fit that I used, for example. And if the Rifter had a bit more CPU, especially if you were able to do some more artillery fits or maybe some more shield style fits, and I really feel like the Rifter would be competitive again. The Rifter just really needs a bit more CPU. But don't listen to people in bringing Solo back who say Rifters are just complete trash, because they're not that bad. They are bad if you're comparing them to the highest level, but, well, not bad, but just, you know, comparatively a bit weaker than the other options like the Kestrel, the Tormentor, Tristan, etc. But for new players, especially because even because we elected to not use the utility high, we do have a bit of fitting left over, and that really helps with our lower skills. But yeah, the Rifter needs a bit more CPU. It does look really cool though. So to go over the skills I trained on this character quickly, as you can see, it has just under 1 million skill points. I did not train the cybernetic skill at all, so I haven't been using implants, and I didn't use any of the bonus remaps on this character. I just put all my points into perception and into intelligence, so just balance them out. This is just a decent general remap, but it's definitely not min-maxed or anything like that. So to go through each category, whole upgrades, mechanics and repair systems, I trained these all to 3. These are just the hit point and the armor hit point. This is whole hit points, this is armor hit points, and then this is the armor repair duration, so that just makes your small ancillary armor repair cycle faster, which gives you more burst tank, which is what you need. For electronic systems, we just picked up propulsion jamming level 1. We don't really need it to train it much higher. These modules don't use too much cap, so it's just sufficient to just leave it at level 1. Training the capacitor management and capacitor systems operation skills level 3 to help our cap out. The cap on the Rifter is actually not so good. If you look at here, we have only 15 seconds, but that's only when we're running the micro warp drive. The regen on the Rifter is actually pretty good, but the max cap on it is bad, and so you'll need to be pulsing this a bit, and just want to train the cap skills to level 3 on most characters, even on the Kestrel character that I had that doesn't use cap really at all. It's definitely worth getting these 2 skills to level 3 each. For the fitting skills, CPU management, power grid management, weapon upgrades to level 4. Just getting the fitting skills to level 4 is just really important. You don't need to train these to level 5 for the Rifter. Weapon upgrades level 4 unlocks the Tech 2 gyro stabilizer, which is why I trained it, but counterbalance weapon mount is just so much more ISK efficient. And then we have energy upgrades level 2. The only reason why I trained this level 2 is just to use a reactor control unit, which was for a ship I used for PvE, which is the Rupture. It's not important to the actual Rifter. and it doesn't take too long to train it to level 2. And then thermodynamics, which is the most important PvP skill in the game. I definitely recommend to get this to level 2. You probably want to get it a bit higher. In fact, I'm gonna just throw that in there right now. Next up for gunnery. Gunnery to level 4 is really important because it unlocks the surgical strike and the trajectory analysis skills. It's kind of efficient. 2% bonus to weapon rate of fire per level. It's worth training it to level 4 just for the bonus it gives you as well. Like I said, I got motion prediction and sharpshooter to level 2. I probably could have done with getting the tracking skill to level 3 or level 4. That's something I can pick up a bit later. And trajectory analysis to level 2. These are the turret application skills. Trajectory analysis is probably the most important one, but it's rank 5, which means it's a pretty long skill train, so it's not all that efficient. I recommend you get surgical strike to level 3 and small projectile turret to level 4, as well as rapid fire to level 4. Combine these. You want to get these skills here because you want to get as much damage as possible. Normally, when I solo PvP, I like to have at least 100 DPS, and as you can see, we're just skirting on the edge of that right now. And of course I trained medium projectile turret to level 3. That was for the Rupture PvE chip that I was using. I'll go a little bit maybe into that in a while. For navigation skills, I trained navigation to level 4, acceleration control to level 3, and then afterburner to level 3 to unlock the micro warp drive skill, which I just put at level 1, and then training evasive maneuvering to level 4. Now it was at level 3, which is the agility skill. It's important to make sure we have acceleration control 3 and navigation 4, I think, just to give you enough speed to be able to run camps. And as you can see, the Rift is just shy of 2.9 kilometers a second with this, which is pretty fast for a combat frigate. You want to be able to have the speed and agility to catch interceptors as well as run camps. And that's why those skills are important. Production doesn't matter. Trained industry level 1 to do the career mission. The industry career mission, which requires you to build some things. It's just a 10-minute skill train anyway. I didn't train anything in resource processing. Scanning doesn't matter here. Science, I need to train science level 4 to unlock thermodynamics, which is the most important skill in PvP. I really wish TCP would change this skill requirement. I really hate it every time, because this skill itself gives a 5% bonus to blueprint copying speed per level, which is something you do in station, docked. It doesn't have anything to do with in space. I really wish CCP would maybe just change the thermodynamics prerequisites from science to capacitor systems operation, because this is the same rank as science, but it's a skill that's actually useful in space, and thermodynamics is in the engineering skill tree now anyway, so making it require energy systems operation level 4, it makes more sense. But anyway, we have to train science to level 4 to get the thermodynamics skill unlocked. Obviously, we're not doing anything with blueprints. For shield, I trained shield management to level 3. The Rifter does have quite a lot of shield, as you can see. With both skills at level 3, it has identical shield and armor. It's kind of split like that, like a few Minotaur ships are. So I'd recommend you train shield management to level 3, just so you get the extra 15% hit points. It's just pretty efficient to get it there. It's a good amount of extra power on your ship. I trained weapon shield upgrades and shield operations level 1. This was mostly just for the Rupture field I was using. You only need shield upgrades level 1 to unlock the large shield extenders even, so getting it to level 1 can really help a bit in PvE, and it's a very short skill train. Shield operations, again, this is a skill that I could train a bit more, but it's more of a utility thing rather than something that's actually going to help you in space. As you can see, we only recover 2 hit points per second, and even if we train this to level 5, that's not going to go up past 3 HP per second. For spaceship command, I trained Minotaur frigate to level 4, obviously to get the fall off bonus and the damage bonus. This is the most efficient skill to train if you just want damage, because it gives you fall off and damage for rank 2, which normally would be rank 6 combined. Trajectory analysis and small projectile turret are combined a rank 6 skill, so this is very efficient to train. Spaceship Command, this is just what you start out with at level 3. It might be worth training it to level 4 at a later date just for 2% extra agility. Mostly I trained mining fig level 1, that was just for the career missions and just so I could AFK mine a bit to make a bit of ISK when I wasn't at the keyboard. But Mimitar Destroyer level 3 and Mimitar Cruiser level 3 was just for PvE. I was using a Rupture for running level 2 missions. I'll see if I can show you the Rupture fit right now, if I can see it from here. And of course I used a Thrasher to run the Sister of Eve Epic Arc, so this is my Rupture, and I just had like 3 gyros, a bunch of the highest tier 720mm artillery on there. Then I just had an afterburner damage control and just like 2 large shield extenders, a large shield extender and then 2 optical tracking computers, and it was pretty slow at running some of the level 2 missions. I think a Thrasher might have been efficient for a lot of them, aside from the ones where there's a lot of NPCs. But this was pretty good at just farming level 2 missions, and that's why I trained those skills. Again, it doesn't take too long to train Mimitar Cruiser to level 3 and Mimitar Destroyer to level 3. You can get both to level 3 in a day. So it's not a big deal, and it's not taking a lot out from the training plan by training for those skills. One thing and also targeting target management to level 2, just because it's so annoying when you're doing PvE, only being able to not lock 2 targets. So this is one of the skills that I hate, and I really think CCP should make new characters start out with this skill at level 3 or something. I just trained the long range targeting skill and signature lance skill to level 1 just for a bit of extra sensor stats. It might be worth bringing them up a bit at a later date, because the lock range on the Rifter is actually really bad, as you can see, 24 kilometers, and it can help a lot with slingshotting and getting your lock range a bit higher and your scan resolution a bit higher, because when you're slingshotting you're going to break your own lock and then you want to come back in, and you know, the faster you can get the lock, the faster you can, and the sooner you can lock from the lock range, the more likely you are to slingshot someone in some cases. So it's worth training them up at a later date, but not before you get these other primary stats. So to start you out with a really simple fight here, I was just hanging around in system, and Nemesis was following me, so I waited at a customs office for him, and he decloaked and he decides to attack me. And the Rift is actually pretty fast, so you can actually get on ships like this that try and attack you at range reasonably quickly. And as you can see, Nemesis is normally doesn't have much tank at all, and he shouldn't be able to apply much DPS to you as long as you keep your traversal up. So I'm orbiting him at 2,500 to keep my velocity up, so that his torps don't apply full damage to me. Even though I do lose a bit of damage to tracking by doing this. And that was the first official blood for my Rifter, right there. Alright, so this next fight is against a crow. I jump into a system and there's a crow on a gate. Normally when people have just interceptors on a gate, even if they're kiting interceptors like crows, often what they do is they'll just sit at 0 and they'll attempt to catch you as easily as possible. So you can see he doesn't even move and he just locks and points me. He's too focused on getting a point on me rather than trying to kite. So it starts MWDing now, but it's too late, and I'm able to get I'm right on top of him, and I'm able to get my scram and web on the crow. I do lose a bit of damage here, and I probably should have used keep at range 2,500 instead of keep at range 1,000. One of the weaknesses of having the tracking skill only at level 2. Against when we're using autocannons against missile ships, we obviously want to be as close as possible, because we want to apply the full DPS. Even though we do have the long fall off, we want to apply our max paper DPS, because missile ships will always be able to do full damage to you, even at all ranges. So you want to be at 0 kilometers from them, so you can apply the full DPS of your guns. So this next fight is against a Crusader. Now against most Amar ships, you want to go close range, and the reason for this is because Scorch will always be more efficient for you and outtrade you at range. So you want to go close where you can apply full paper DPS versus their full paper DPS. And also pulse lasers have worse tracking than autocannon, so you want to try and mitigate as much as their DPS as possible. And you also have a lower signature radius typically on Mimitar projectile ships. In this case the Crusader has a tracking bonus and the Rifter doesn't, so our tracking is probably on par. You can see he actually has Scorch loaded and he's missing me with that tracking penalty, while I'm close range and I'm getting more efficient trades in him. He switches to Conflag at this point, but it's too late and he's taken down. And again, you also want to go close range against most Amar laser ships, because often Mimitar projectile ships have utility high slots, and you want to be able to leverage that against laser ships, which occasionally do not have utility high slots, so it's harder for them to utilize them, and they're more vulnerable to cap, so you want to use your NOS or Nuke pressure on them. This fight here you're going to see here is against another Crow, and I actually do a pretty bad job at messing up here. I double click in space and then turn off approach by mistake. And you can see that the Crow actually scrams the gate, which is pretty funny. But yeah, against most kiting interceptors like this, you just want to get on top of them as fast as possible. And again, the Crow is a missile ship, so we always want to be on top of it. Against blasters, we can talk about those a bit later. Obviously, we want to kite. When you're in an autocannon ship, generally speaking, there are some exceptions, but you want to kite blasters. You want to go close range on missile ships, on drone ships, and on laser ships. And against autocannons, it depends on your ship bonus. So, for example, against anything that doesn't have a fall-off bonus, the Rifter would want to kite at range using the fall-off advantage, such as if the Rifter was in a fight against a slasher. So just taking this Crow down now, and Crows are pretty easy kill for you if you can get them in scram range. If they actually kite you, they are a lot tougher. Alright, so this fight is a bit complicated. So there's an Imperial Navy Slicer and an Ares following me around for a long time, and I was trolling them a bit. They do have quite a big fleet behind them as well. I was trying to split them up by aggression over each side of the gate. I noticed that the Ares made quite a big mistake, is that he started reapproaching the gate, but he didn't turn MWD on this side, while the Slicer was aggressed on the other side, briefly. So I decided to go in on him because he wasn't going to be able to jump from the gate, because I would web and scram him off the gate. And I can probably kill an Ares. He does have blasters, so neutron blasters, so I was kiting him in about 5 kilometers. Or I decided to come in once the Slicer decloaked, just to get as much DPS on him as possible to try and bring him down. As you can see, local goes up quite a bit in a second here, so his friends are all coming in now. And luckily I'm able to... the cap on the Rifter is pretty bad, but I'm able to get a heated MWD cycle off on the micro warp drive here, and I just start aligning to a belt. This is pretty bad because I don't have it on selected items, so I can't spam very efficiently, but I am able to warp out from the Slicer with 3 whole HP left, which was pretty amazing. So we have here a pretty amazing fight, although there's a lot of mistakes made by the Federation Navy Comet pilot here. So against blasters, obviously we want to kite at range. I have fusion loaded to try and go through his armor, although Federation Navy Comets actually have a lot of shield HP, and so I'm actually debating whether or not it's better to actually have phase plasma loaded against the Fed Navy Comet, even if they have an auxiliary rep. But this was sort of like the standard hull Comet that I'm against. This pilot made 2 main mistakes really in this fight. And the first is that he never switched to null, and this fight will actually go on for quite a long time. So I'm able to kite this guy pretty efficiently at range. He doesn't really close on me, and he also takes a long time to launch his drones. He doesn't actually launch his drones until quite late in this fight. But again, we just want to kite as much as possible. He does get like the odd wrecking shot on me, as you can see here, but for the most part I'm pretty safe, and because he's at least shooting me with antimatter and not reloading to null, I'm able to get a lot of damage on him without him being able to return much damage to me at all. And this is generally what you want to do against blaster ships. The Federation Navy Comet is pretty hard to fight because normally it has drones, 3 Hobgoblin 2s, and then another backup spare, which makes them very hard to kill. You can tank the drones while you have ancillary charges, but again, on this Rifter I don't have much shield. I don't have much capacitor, so I can't run the ancillary armor repairer all that much, and I also need to just be efficient with my charges, and my DPS is not as high as it could be and things like that. So he puts the Hobgoblin 2s on me now. Hobgoblin 2s are actually pretty good for me because Hobgoblin 2s have really bad tracking in terms of their speed. So you can see here that the Hobgoblin 2s are actually missing me occasionally or getting grazing hits on me, which makes it possible for me to sort of survive just a little bit. And as you can see, the Hobgoblin 2s do wear me down while they are on me, but while you have ancillary charges you can last through them if you can survive. I think he probably would have killed me if he just launched his drones at the start, or if he had loaded null, but it's pretty amusing when you can get a really nice kill like this in a trial account Rifter. This is a fight where I actually died in. This guy was in an afterburner fit and he kind of baited me a bit, and you need to be careful. I did burn off to try and get him to burn after me, and he wasn't burning for me. He's actually baiting me in, and you know, it's a bit bad-mannered for a 2-year-old pilot to bait a 17-day-old trial account with an afterburner. And one thing I could have done maybe is like kite him a bit more out at 15 kilometers and shoot him into armor or something at least before engaging. As you can see, he sort of like picks up speed now and comes for me. That's when his afterburner is sort of coming on. Maybe I should have double clicked in space here. My piloting wasn't the best here really, but there's not really much you can do against someone who has a counterfeit for you and is baiting your trial account Rifter. So again, the Atron does have a fall off bonus, and it can be dangerous because of that. I do have a fall of Atron fit as well, which is very powerful. It does a lot of DPS to range, so the Atron is something that you can definitely kill in a Rifter, but you just be wary of it, and also you know, be careful people who fit afterburners and bait you in. It's my fault. I should have probably just not engaged when I saw he wasn't going to MWD for me. So I want to show you this, the lead up to this fight, because it's a bit more important than the fight itself. So there's a Jackdaw and a Saber camping this gate, although I warped before they put the bubble up, and there's also a Nemesis here. Now I really want to kill that Nemesis, but I need to split up the Jackdaw and the Saber. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to try and bait them into another system. I know the Nemesis was decloaked and he was in the bubble, so I thought if I could like maybe warp to an out gate and come back, and if the Jackdaw and Saber follow me, then I go back in. I can probably kill the Nemesis if he's still there. So that's what I'm doing. I'm warping to the out gate. That's sort of my theory, and we'll see what they do. And so you can see the Saber initially came in, and then the Jackdaw came in slightly afterwards, and I landed on this gate here. And now I'm checking D-scan to see, and indeed the Saber is following me, so I know the Saber is interested in following me, so I walk back to the gate. The Jackdaw's not on scan yet, but if it's just a Jackdaw and the Nemesis there, I'm pretty confident I can run and escape from them if they don't want to engage. There was a Son of Born scan briefly, but I walked to the gate and the Jackdaw is not there, so he's either holding cloak or, you know, maybe I missed him on D-scan if he was like in warp to somewhere else. So, and indeed he has just decloaked now, but I decided that this is a pretty good time to jump, because the Jackdaw is still reapproaching the gate, and this could give me a bit of time to go on the Nemesis. I watched local to see if the Jackdaw's coming into local, and he's not quite in local yet, and so I decided to go in on the Nemesis because there's probably some delay in time. I do make a mistake in this fight. I want to talk about that as well. So we go in on the Nemesis, who's eager to aggress us, and luckily neither the Saber or the Jackdaw's decided to come in yet. They're probably holding on the other side, maybe thinking that I'm going to get tackled here, and that the Nemesis is maybe going to force me through, or I'm going to run from them or something like that. So the Jackdaw decloaks now, but I make a pretty big mistake here, and that was that I had left my MWD on, and I was sat at 2 kilometers from the Nemesis, so my sig was massive, and I took a massive torque volley there. That was not the Jackdaw, that was the Nemesis that did that, but I am able to bring down this Nemesis, and even though I am screwed here because the Jackdaw and the Saber now have both scrams and webs on me. I was able to kill the Nemesis, which was worth 10 times more than my ship, so that was pretty successful in my opinion. And that's just like a way to split up a superior gang and get at the ships that you can kill. So this is a quick fight against the Crusader, and how this fight really started out was me warping around to objects and he was following me. So I warped to a gate at 0 and he followed me to 0 as well. I think he was really eager to fight me, and so I decided to engage him here. And it's best for me to engage the Crusader at 0 obviously, and if I can start the fight at 0 with my full capacitor without having to make a warp driver tool, then I'm going to have the best chance of winning this fight. In all honesty, against a properly fit Crusader with a brawling fit, it's almost impossible to win. But he actually has a disruptor which has a very high CPU cost, which means that his ship is not going to be as effective as a Crusader with a scram for brawling. And you can see he dies pretty quickly here, and it was actually a full speed fit Crusader. But again, this is another way to start fights at your advantage. If they think you're trying to run from them, you can often catch them off guard, especially if you're flying a very low SP character. So I want to close off with probably my favourite fight of the fights that I got in the Rifter, and this is a fight against an NU, which is an assault frigate, and I'm in a 17-day-old trial account Rifter with Tech 1 guns. So against an NU, it's a blaster ship. It does have an optimal range bonus, so it can project out a bit further, especially if it loads null, than most other blaster frigates are able to project out to you, so it is dangerous. And the other thing about the NU really is it just has a lot of HP. It has something like 1500 base armor or something along those lines, so it's really hardy. It takes a lot of damage to kill a NU, but if you can kite it out for the duration of the fight, then you can kill the NU. This is a possible fight to win, and I just want to show you this because it just shows you how far a trial account can go in EVE Online, even against a 2-year-old player, a player that's been playing for a long time and also is flying a Tech 2 ship, which is really powerful against your measly trial account Rifter. So against this fight, obviously I'm just trying to kite at range, and luckily this guy doesn't have neutrons. He actually has iron blasters, although I didn't realise that when I started the fight. And the drone, again, the NU does have one drone. I don't think it's worth trying to kill the drone. If I take my web off the NU to start killing the drone, then he will gain on me as well, and that's probably not a good idea. So it's best to leaving the drone up and dealing with the periodic damage that it does to me. A single Hobgoblin 2 does 20 DPS, so it's not too bad. You can tank it on charges. Of course, he is getting hits on me as well because he is loading null, unlike the Comet that I fought against before. This pilot is actually using the correct ammo choice, although I double click in space at this point to start moving away from him because I realize that my tank is getting really low, and if I can just pull range a bit, maybe I can sort of escape from his damage range a bit more and tank myself up. I do make a mistake in this fight, and I want to point that out as well. So you can see here we're actually taking him down. We're really struggling here. We've used most of our ancillary charges, and our capacitor's really bad, and I'm spamming the old ancillary repper to try and get it in before I die, and our guns, and he is looking pretty bleak. We can't heat for much longer, although we are getting him pretty low, and we're moving away slightly, and he actually goes into scramage at this point, and I debate whether or not I should go back in on him. At this point I decide to orbit 7500, but he moves away from me, and I thought maybe he was reloading or something and he's running, and my ancillary rep actually starts reloading here as well, which is bad for me, and I'm really close to heat at this point. But what happens is he actually ends up slingshotting me, so that's well played on him, and a bad mistake on my part. I also should have had reload off on my ancillary repper. This is a fight I could have won in this trial account Rifter if I didn't make that mistake at the end. And I think this is a great fight. It just goes to show you just how far a low SP character can go in EVE Online. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope that really shows you what a trial account in EVE Online can do, and it puts a few of the haters back away. But like I said, I'd really like to give a huge shout out to Annabelle, who gave me a huge donation. He gave me a 5 billion donation earlier, 2 months before, and also now a 29 billion donation, which is huge. Like, he literally donated a fully fit Nyx to me, essentially, with a decent fit. So I'd like to give a huge thanks to him. I'd also like to give away a lot of, some of it at least, to eveiseasy viewers. So we'll have a giveaway at some point within the next day or so. That will probably be given away at the end of June. I'll probably have a new video up with the details for that pretty soon. But anyway, thanks for watching my video, and I really appreciate it.